ever gone through some things that draw some things out that you really are not proud of, you like, you're not comfortable with? So Jesus knows Philip. And Philip, this is the same guy in chapter 14 of the book of John, where Jesus says this. He says, Philip, I've been so long with you, and thou hast not known me. In other words, Philip's been a disciple for a long time, been through a lot with Christ. He's not getting it. See, Philip saw the water that was turned into wine, did he not? Philip saw that. Philip saw this lame man be healed. He's with Christ, and he sees all these miracles. And then this comes about, where they need to feed 15,000 people, and Philip's like, can't do it. Can't do it. I don't have enough money. Doesn't pass the test, really, okay? So let's move on quickly. Look at verse number 10. And Jesus said, make the men sit down. Now there was much grass in the place, so the men sat down in number about 5,000. And Jesus took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed unto the disciples, and the disciples to them that were set down. And likewise of the fishes, as much as they would. When they were filled, he said unto his disciples, gather up the fragments that remain, that nothing be lost. Okay. Still trying to get through the intro, okay? I'm trying to go fast, because there's a lot. So, what, in verse number 9, so Philip is here and Andrew is here. And Philip says, we can't do it. 200 pennyworth, it's not enough, can't do it. Not enough money. Andrew goes out and finds some kid with a lunch. Does he not? I don't know if Andrew jumped him or what, but Andrew finds a lunch, okay? So Andrew comes back, and he's got this kid's with him, and this kid's got a lunch with him, okay? 2 fish and 5 barley loaves. And Andrew says, we've got a lunch here, 2 small fish, 5 barley loaves, but what are they among so what? So many. In other words, we have something, but it's not going to be enough. We have some money, but it's not going to be enough. So Andrew and Philip are failing big time, they don't know it. And Jesus just put them up for a test. Jesus can do whatever he wants, right? So, Jesus is testing their faith. Testing their faith. Has your faith been tested lately? How about your faith in Christ? I don't know if my faith has ever been tested like it has the last 2 years. 2000, 2001, 2002. How about you? There's some things that have happened in this world that make me think about my faith. The reality of my faith. So, it's going to happen to you, it happens to all of us. What are they amongst so many? I was on Mountain Road yesterday at Cliffside. You guys know where that's at? Quail Bluff, Cliffside. And I was coming down, there was a sign that said this. It said, bake sale. 3/18, which is March 18th. And then it said 2 words. For Ukraine. And the cynical side of me thought, what a waste of time. What a waste of time. So as of like last week, there's been $100 billion worth of damage in Ukraine right now. $100 billion. And so we got some guys at Cliffside, or some ladies or some kids, who are trying to come up with, what's a good bake sale? $100? $200? I don't know, you tell me, I've never had a bake sale. Brian? Brian's like, I've had a bake sale. What's a good bake sale, Brian?
I think the Center for Pregnancy Choices got like $1,300. That's the biggest one I've ever seen.
Okay. Let's say they have a bake sale and they make $5,000. Is that going to make a difference to the Ukrainians? A little bit? Poquito? Just a little bit. I don't know if any Ukrainian is going to be like, wow, those people are amazing. Cliffside, Utah. Thank you so much. You rebuilt our nation. Wow. I don't think it's really going to make that much of a difference. But you know who really benefits from that kind of stuff? Is the people who make the bread and the donuts and the whatever bakery unselfishly, it's those people that really benefit. Not so much you're going to see it, worldwide long term. Does that make sense? And I thought about that when I saw it. I thought, what is that amongst such a big deal? Not much. And so the comparison might be there, okay? Okay. Moving right along here. So I thought, they've got FEMA, they've got the Red Cross, they've got Samaritan's Purse. You guys can't compete with that. Can't compete. And so the comparison is there when you look at these people who have 5 loaves and 2 fishes. What are they most of? Okay? Okay. Now the message, okay? Are you ready? Okay, here we go. Put your seatbelts on, we're going to go fast. Here we go. So, have you ever gone through an experience, and then after that reaction to that experience, you thought to yourself, if that was a test, I think I failed. You ever been there? The reason for these tests is to show us our need of Him. Number 2, it shows how quickly we resort to our own efforts, our own ideas, and our own self-dependency. So we do need to be reminded at times who our faith is to be in. So Jesus in verse number 6, it says this, and He said this to prove Him, for Jesus already knew what He would do. So Jesus got it all figured out, right? From the beginning to the end, Jesus knows what He's going to do. He's not nervous. He's not scared. He's got it all planned out. He knows the beginning from the end. He knows the beginning of your life to the end of your life. He's got it all figured out. But we don't. We have to live by what? Faith. And that's tough because we can't see it. We can't see the beginning from the end. And so Philip and Andrew, because Andrew jumped in, he's being tested as well, and he fails. So stay with me. God knows us. And it's usually storms. It usually takes a storm to reveal to us what's in our heart. If you go back to Matthew chapter 7, verse 24 to 29, remember the wise man, the foolish man, the wise man built upon a rock, the foolish man built upon what? The sand. And the same wind, the same rain, the same storm, same house, the same everything, but the only thing that was different was what? A man built on the sand, another man built on a rock. That was the only difference. See, in the sunshine, when everything's good, and there's no wind and there's no storm, both houses look the same. But when the storm comes to life and beats upon that house, that's what changes everything. It reveals what is otherwise concealed. And it usually takes a storm. Man, learning is so slow. Remember, my wife will remember this. Just a couple days before we got engaged to be married, I went to a place, had a buddy get married. He's like, hey Gary, if you can get a ring, go to this place. It's called Facets 58 in Orange County. Went down there, talked to the owner, and he's like, how much should I put down this ring? And I'm like, man, I got a couple $100 I can give you today, and then why don't you just put me on a payment plan? He's like, okay. And then he's like, how do you know, how do I know that you're not just going to take off with the ring and I never see you again? You give me $200 for this couple $1,000 ring, I think it's $2,400. And I was like, $50,000. Like $2,400. And he's like, okay, you give me $200 and you leave, I never see you again. He's like, that's not fair to me. I go, well, what are we going to do, man? I have a couple $100 to put down. He's like, do this. He says, what do you drive? What do you have for collateral? What do you own? I'm like, I don't have a house. I got a Ford Bronco, man. And he's like, perfect. Bring me your is it pink, not pink slip? Title. Your title. And you give that to me. I will own your Ford Bronco, and you can have the ring. When you pay the ring off, I will give you back your title. I'm like, cool, that sounds good. Stupid, right? So I went out to the parking lot, grabbed that title, no big deal. I'm going to get married. It's a Gina or a Bronco. That's tough. I'm good. Who cares about the Ford Bronco? Now this guy can tell all his rich buddies that he actually owns a Ford Bronco. It'll be cool. And so anyway, went out there, got the title, brought it back, and I gave it to him. I said, okay, man, here's a title for the ring, right? And he started laughing. He's like, man, I don't want your stupid title. I don't want your Ford Bronco. I was just wondering if you would be true to your word. You are willing to give up your car and everything that you own for this ring. He said, man, take the ring. I trust you. And it was just a test to see if I would do it. I never forgot that. That was kind of cool of him. And I got the ring, ended up getting married, and keep the Ford Bronco. I guess I worked out good. I couldn't see the end from the beginning. I was just willing to give it up for, to get married. So that was important to me. So anyway, that kind of tricked me. But anyway, we got it paid off. Everything's good. And but learning slow. I don't know about you. I learn at a different level. I learn slowly. This winter when I was off for a couple of days, I thought, I'm going to learn Spanish. So I got on Duolingo. It's called Duolingo. You ever been on that? And it teaches you and tests you. It'll give you a lesson, then you have to take a test. Lesson test, really quick. I passed like 2 lessons. I'm like, hola, ¿cómo está? I'm like, man, I'm getting this. I got it. I can talk Spanish. And poquito, solamente unos pocos palabras, I'm like fluent. 2 days. So the third day, I'm like, this is too hard. Forget Duolingo. It doesn't work. Whatever. And Duolingo's after me. They're like trailing me. I'm not kidding. My phone blows up all the time. Gary, where are you? We're here. It's Duolingo. You haven't taken your test. These people are crazy. And it's still blowing up. I gotta get that deleted. And I'm like, adios. So Duolingo's after me. And they want me to learn so bad. They want me to learn more than I want to learn. Last week I was sitting over here and someone from Duolingo shows up. It's almost like that. So I'm so much like Philip. This is what I said. Okay, maybe we're all there, but some things I struggle with. How many of you think you're a patient person? Yeah, right. So we think we're patient, and then you go drive Main Street. I thought I was a patient person. Will someone cut you off? Or you're on your way to church and you're late, and you get behind someone that's driving really slow, like an old guy. 2 weeks ago, we left Nibley, we're on our way to church. And we're a little late, so I'm in a hurry. And I get behind, I could hit this old guy. I don't hit my blinker, just get off. I look over at him. You guys ever do that when you pass someone slow, you look at him, and you give him that look? Like, come on, man! Let's go! You're not going to believe this, it was Brother Turner. You're not going to believe this. Brother Turner, a fight. I mean, like, you can So he made fun of me 2 weeks ago. I thought I'm going to get it back. Drives, it's like 55 miles an hour. He's going like 20. And you think you're a patient person until God tries your patience and puts you in a situation where you totally fail. And then you're like, God, I need you. We think we're long-suffering until we have to suffer along with somebody. We think we're full of faith until God puts us in a faithless situation. We lose our faith. We think we love people. And God places us in a situation where there's a lot of unloving people. See, there are areas we are not privy to unless shown in various ways. God brings it out. So that's verse number 6. And then let's go to verse number 9. we'll finish with this. There is a lad here which hath 5 barley loaves and 2 fishes. The Lord gave him something. Let's talk about this kid. So, this is for the kids, okay? Andrew says, there's a lad here, and he's got some food. Think with me. I can't read it. That is all gibberish to me, but you ever write a bunch of stuff down and you can't read your own writing? Can't work out today. I don't even need this. It just looks like I study, right? I can't read my own writing. The kid said no. Andrew goes, "Kid, hey, you got 5 loaves, 2 fishes? Are you willing to share it with Jesus?" No. Could have said no. I don't think the kid was the only one with lunch, by the way. Like, Gary, we're not reading into the situation here. Just stay with me. So you got 50 to 20,000 people, and this kid's the only one with a lunch. Nobody's got a candy bar. Nobody's got Skittles. Nobody's got a bag of chips. Nobody's got another fish. No one else brought a piece of bread. So he's the only one with a lunch. I don't think so, but I think he's the only one that said, "Hey, you want my lunch?" That's pretty powerful. He could have saved it for later. There's no other mention of this poor kid after verse number 9. It's no attention. No attention for him. No accolades, no appreciation, no kickback, no thank you letter from Jesus. Nothing in the mail. No attaboy. Nothing is ever said about this kid. Crazy. He's involved in the feeding of 20,000 people and did not get his name in the book. This might be the message today. The nameless kid in John chapter 6. If you want to do a study, this is a neat study. Maybe write this down for later. Study all the nameless people in the Bible. Crazy study. I'll get to that in just a second. You say, man, he's got 2 fish. They're probably pickled for preservation reasons. They're either pickled or soused. Look at that up later. But it's almost like just dried fish. So it's preserved. And then he's got 5 barley loaves. If you were a kid today, your mom might have packed you a lunch, and you go see Jesus do his miracle or whatever, you look inside your lunch and you got 5 barley loaves and 2 pickled fish, wouldn't you want to get rid of it too? I think he was like, "Hey Jesus, you got my lunch? That stuff's disgusting." Now, it's not like it's In-N-Out Burger, right? This is 5 barley loaves and 2. How dry can you get? No Gatorade, no Mountain Dew. It's just 5 barley loaves, 2 fishes. I don't think that really happened. In that day, the land of Canaan, wheat was the primary ingredient of bread. The rich people with money, they used barley. So this is saying something, that this is probably a rich kid. His mom and dad had some money set up. The little rich kid walking around with 5 barley loaves. That was unheard of. And 2 small fishes. The other thing that I was thinking about was this. Do you think that kid baked those? Do you think that kid baked bread? How many think that kid made his own lunch? Raise your hand. I don't think so. Who made his lunch? Duh. Mom. You think he got up early and baked bread, pickled some fish, went and caught some fish, pickled it, and packed his own lunch, and then went to see Jesus? This is a lad. It's a little boy. So, I might be wrong, but I think his mom made this. You think when that mom was making this lunch, she knew that day she was going to be feeding 15 to 20,000 people with that lunch? I don't think so. Maybe she never heard about this. Maybe she never heard the story. Maybe the kid just, Jesus fed 20,000. They never told his mom what happened. A river makes it to places the source never knows about. How many of you have ever studied the Colorado River? Where it starts and where it ends up? You know it starts in Colorado. A little place called Padre. I can't read it. Padre Pass. It starts in Padre Pass, and that is in the Rocky Mountain National Park. Flows to the Great Lake. Granby. Starts in the Grand Lake, goes to the Grandy Lake, goes all the way to the Sonora Desert in California, Southern California. 2014, it reached the Pacific Ocean for the first time. So it starts in Colorado, way up high, it's like 10,000 feet elevation. It goes all the way to Southern California. Pretty crazy, I think. It starts out with just a little stream. It's just a little stream. And then you have all these tributaries. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. They say the average width of the river is 300 feet. The biggest, or the deepest spot is 85 feet deep. And it starts out with just like a little spring. All the people that river affects, millions upon millions of people, and it starts at the source. When it just trickles out of the mountain, do you think that water that just trickles out of the mountain knows the effect of it? Pretty crazy. Crazy thought. So a river makes it to places the source never knows about. There's a lesson there. You never know the words that you say, the things that you do, the effect of it. Your life. The effects of your life. Not a crazy thought. Let's keep reading. Okay. And so, this kid gives up his lunch, doesn't share it, gives it up totally. And Jesus does something with it. He takes the nominal and does something phenomenal, man. Just changes it. This lad's involved, okay? I just picked out a couple of nameless people in the Bible that made a huge difference, but didn't get their name in the Bible. You think of all the bad people in the Old Testament, New Testament, they got their name in the book. But a lot of these people that did great things weren't even named. Like Jezebel, she gets her name in the book. Jezebel, like all the pharaohs and the pilots and the governors that hated Christ, they get their name in the book. But there are people who make a difference in this life, or at least this life, even this life, who never get their name printed. And it's not important to them, by the way. Number one, how about the wine server who helped Joseph? Remember that guy? Got thrown in jail with Joseph, has a dream. Joseph's like, you're going to get out in like, what? 2 days? Gets out in 2 days, and God's like, man, I can't believe you read my dream. It was God, by the way. And so he's getting out of prison. Joseph's like, hey, don't forget about me. Don't forget about it. Say something to Pharaoh. Remember that story? And Pharaoh has a dream, and the wine server is there. Pharaoh's like, hey, can you interpret this dream? He's like, no, I can't do that. And he forgets about Joseph for 2 years. Remember that? And Pharaoh's like, oh, whoa. I remember Joseph in prison. He interpreted my dream. Tells Pharaoh about it. Pharaoh goes to Joseph and says, hey, can you interpret this dream? My wine server said you could. Because of that, ultimately, Joseph gets out of jail because he interprets a dream and saves a nation. Because he becomes second in command of Egypt. And Israel comes to Egypt because there's a famine. Remember all that? And if he didn't do that, if that wine server forgot totally about Joseph, none of this would have happened, and possibly Christ would have been born. Because the lineage would have been cut off due to what? Famine. The wine server. How about the Samaritan woman at the well? How about Pharaoh's daughter who saved baby Moses? What was her name? She didn't get her name in the book. No name. Just Pharaoh's daughter. She saved Moses. Moses wrote what? Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, the Pentateuch? Led the nation of Israel out of Egypt. Pretty important guy. He couldn't have done that without Pharaoh's daughter. No name. How about the thief on the cross? No name. The poor widow, no name. The widow at Zarephath, no name. How about Noah's wife? Yeah, Noah, Ham, Shem, and Japheth, right? Why isn't she named? She might have been the most important encouragement to Noah, by the way. Right? Noah's wife? Maybe it was Joan's wife. That would make sense, right, Joan? Yeah. How about Abraham's mother? We know that Abraham's dad was Ur, the Chaldees. But Abraham's mom, she raised Abraham. Very important guy. Very. How about the disciples? Remember the story of the disciples being let down in the basket? No. The disciples let Paul down in the basket. Remember that story? You guys remember that? Remember the governor of Damascus sent a garrison of troops to go get Paul, and they were going to arrest Paul, and who knows what they're going to do to Paul. And there was some disciples there that put Paul in a basket and lowered him out of the window, down the wall, in a basket. Remember those guys? What were their names? There's no namers. They were just called disciples. Are those guys important? Yeah, they're pretty important. Do you like the New Testament? Paul wrote about 3/4 of the New Testament. Saved Paul's life. How about no namers? People who just held the ropes and didn't let go. See, when you give up, you affect people. When you let go of the rope, you affect people. I don't know if you can just see the situation, but maybe there was a basket, and there was 4 corners, and so you got 4 ropes and 4 disciples, right? And you let them fall down. Maybe one guy said, man, I'm tired, I'm just going to let go. And so what happens? The 3 other guys are having to, what? Pull the weight, hold the ropes. The other guy's like, man, I'm getting tired too. I'm going to let go. They're like, hey, let's just let this guy go. Forget him. And one guy's like, hey, we can't let him go. This is Paul. Oh, this is the Apostle Paul. We got to keep him holding the ropes because this is an important guy. So what I'm saying is this, that we are given, not responsibilities, but we are given opportunities to hold the ropes. Don't let go. It's important. How about all of you who serve? Whether it's nursery, teachers, cleaners, givers, greeters, encouragers, counters, musicians, VBS workers, etc., etc. You know we have even a card minister here? Pretty crazy. How many of you know who the card minister is here? Like if you're sick, you'll probably get a card in the mail saying, hey, we missed you. Who is it? Mary? Do you guys know? Oh, it's you? Okay. Share that. How many of you know that? How many of you know that's a paid position? She makes $2 I mean, it's like $500 a week. That's easy $500, right? Now, everybody, every time you come to church, you're like, thank you so much for your card ministry. You have impacted the world. Not much of an impact. Probably a thankless position, and nobody knows you do it. But it's vitally important. You're holding ropes. You know, if certain people in this church mess up, like these guys in the back, who is it? I can't even see. I don't know if you guys are out there. Hello? I forgot my glasses. So you got, Matt and Lizzie. Matt and Lizzie. You guys are goofing off. If I do something wrong to Miguel, if you do something wrong to Miguel, if they mess up, they get crucified. I'm criticized, beat down, you guys are terrible, get out of there. Because you messed up. That's a tough position. Because musicians over playing, I was like, whoa, hey! You know, they get yelled at. Tough position. Isn't it easy to be critical? It's so easy to criticize. And it's usually the people in the grandstands that criticize the people who are right, right? I was at a track meet the other day. Phoebe's actually doing track. She broke my record the other day. You got to hear the people in the grandstands. They can do everything so much better than the people over behind. You hear stuff like, "Move your arms!" You know, parents yelling at their kids. The kids are like crying. One girl got up to what are those called? The hurdles, and she just stopped. She just quit. She's done. And then she's like, "I'll do it." So she walked back, and then she jumped it, and then finished. That's pretty awesome. Several kids hit the hurdles and fell flat on their face. Kids are like, man, these are trying. One kid stopped and around the hurdle. I know you can do that. I thought you had to go over it. And people in the grandstands talking. "Move your arm." Just yelling at kids. So I'm like, I'm not going to yell at you. So Phoebe's up, she goes, and she's running. I'm like, "Go, Phoebe, go, go!" And Phoebe's, beating everybody. And all of a sudden she goes, I'm like, "Phoebe! Quit making me look bad!" And so I won't tell you how far she finished last, but she finished last, but she finished. And she walks up to me like, "Oh, thanks for watching me. How do I do?" She's careless. Now, the first thing I did was criticize her. That terrible nerve. I said, "Phoebe, tie her shoe! Her shoes are untied." I'm like, "You are just like your mother." She's running with her laces, slapping her in the face. This is a trap. It's easy to criticize when you're not the one running, isn't it? When you're serving and someone criticizes you, that hurts. That hurts. You ever thought about building somebody up, encouraging them? Like, "Run, run, run!" And then, they win or lose. It doesn't matter. They ran. They tried. They hurled. They didn't get over the first time. They got over the second time. And so encourage people. Encourage people that are holding the ropes, that are doing something. Get involved. You do that. Many times it's a no-neighbor position. When you serve at a church, you serve, and you do things that require selflessness, you're overlooked many times. If you require a pat on the back or a good job or an attaboy all the time, you're not going to last very long. You're going to quit. Here's a lad who gave up his lunch, changed these people's life, at least for a day. And it's just a lad. No one will ever know his name. I think he's okay with that. I think he's okay with that. Let me just read a couple things. There's some lessons that I learned with that. God will work in spite of us, but He would rather work because of us. Sharing what you have is more important than what you have. You're like, "Well, I can't do what you have." God will get His work done with or without you, but don't miss out on the opportunity He gives you. God is not looking for ability. He's looking for availability. Many times we look for ability. "Well, I can't do that." God's like, "I'll take care of that." Are you available? You have a lunch? I'll use it. That's all you got? I'll use it. Remember Moses? God called Moses to lead the children of Israel. He said, "I can't do that. I can't speak." Moses had trouble speaking, and God's like, "Hey, who made your mouth?" Who made your mouth, Moses? When people are included, or when people are involved, there are always needs. God uses people to meet the needs of people. Little is much when God is in it. Your abilities, your gifts, and your talents may not be much in your eyes. And we compare to others too much, do we not? But if you give it to God, God will do something with it. And I'll close on of you, maybe growing up, or you still do it, like I do it, you compare yourself with other people. I would do that if I could do it like Brian does. I could do it if I could do it like Rich does. Or I would get involved if I had the mind of, if I was smart like, I had the ability of, I could sing like, I could play like, but I don't have that ability. Every one of you have an ability, you have a talent, you have a gift from God. You believe that? That's what the New Testament teaches. 1 Corinthians. Every one of you have a God-given ability or gift that you are to be using. And it's your responsibility to figure out what it is. You have a gift of encouragement, gift of giving, gift of mercy, all these gifts. If I'm not careful, I compare what I have to what other people have, and I get discouraged and say, I read something a long time ago, I wrote it down, I'll never forget it. If you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life thinking it's stupid. That's pretty impactful, if you think about it. A fish has certain abilities and certain gifts that no other creature has, and God's given it. And if he uses it, does amazing things. But if you judge that fish on its ability to do other things, it'll think it's really stupid the rest of the time. It's pretty hard. God has given you an ability and a talent that you're to be using for God. You know what it is, and you use it. Or you're like the one talent guys that I've only got one talent, and he buries it. He buries it. So here's a story of a lad who just says, I have a lunch. Here's Jesus. You can use my lunch. Here it is. No abilities. Can't offer anything of himself, but he has something to give. What do you have to give? Pretty powerful story, New Testament. Maybe you can use something that was said this morning. Let's go ahead and pray. Let's all stand together. Let's pray. As the musicians come, maybe you can be thinking about, maybe there's a challenge in there somewhere you can use in your life. The lad was there for a purpose. And there's no mistake he was there. He was there for a reason. And he was there at the right time. God can use you. Let's pray in the middle of Lord, thank you for, Lord, just your goodness to us. Thank you that we're here today. Lord, thank you for preserving this story in the New Testament. Lord, you allowed every writer in the Gospel of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John to pen this so that we would not forget. It was that important. Lord, sometimes things happen for a reason. And Lord, you allow things to happen. Lord, I think number one, to reveal who you are. And number two, to show us who we are. Lord, our need of you. And so, Lord, we just want to submit ourselves to your destiny. Be okay with that. And Lord, do a work that only you can do in our life. Lord, there's blind spots in our life. There's blind spots in my life. And Lord, help us to see them. And Lord, I pray that you do a work that only you can do today. In Christ's name. Amen. As a musician, if there's something